reasonable people can disagree. I love what you just said there, Adam, and I'm very much looking forward to this episode. So, first off, this collector series has been a blast. It's been super fun, and it's been very casual, right? Like Adam came on here, and you know, people know where I stand on LeBron at this point. But there was a disagreement recently about, I think Find Your Trove, Frank, appreciate you joining. We had a disagreement about LeBron. Is he the best player in the league? I think he said Anthony Davis is going to be MVP. But what's beautiful about that, and I think what we want to portray in our community, is we could disagree and still love each other, still respect each other, still want to see each other do well. And that's, this collector series has kind of brought that warmth back into my heart towards the hobby. So I can't think of a better guy to have on. So this is a collector, kind of a pioneer with what you're doing with Eminence, if I could be honest. Like, you were really early on that Eminence brand. And ever since we've talked about it, I think it's a top 3 nicest aesthetic design. So, and he does a magazine like nobody else, like in depth.
Well, really nobody else.
Well, it's a clickbait culture, and here we go in depth into a subject. And I think there's a lot of benefit. So if you guys haven't checked it out, we're going to link the magazine here in a little bit. I highly recommend checking it out. If you don't like it, I will give you your money back personally, but definitely check it out. Adam, Real27 guy, one of the best collectors in the game, even better person. Welcome to the show, man.
Andrew, Cage, you guys are awesome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Sure, listen, really quick on your newsletter. Let's let people know where they can find it. But more importantly, Andrew and I, we chat every day, not just on the show, off the show. We try not to prep for the show. This way it's all, live. It's really, audience gets kind of a conversation like two guys in a bar kind of stuff. We talk after, we talk in the morning, give them a brain dump. But one of the things that's constant in everything we do, everything Andrew, kind of put into the podcast is no matter what, we got to provide value for our audience. So why we're doing an episode a day. It's why we bring on the guests we bring on, you name it. And I really think, you personify that, man. That what you put in there, I mean, that's blood, sweat, and tears that you put in your newsletter. And it's real valuable stuff. It's real great information. And if there's anybody out there who hasn't seen it, let them know where they can find it. And, and like Andrew said, I mean, it is well worth your money.
Dude, you're so nice. Yeah, we started this thing 14 months ago. Our 14th issue just started delivering yesterday to hard copies, started delivering to doorsteps. In fact, since I was on last, when I first on, we weren't even doing hard copies. Yep. Hard copies have really changed the game for us a little bit. We sent out 500 hard copies a couple weeks ago, and so print is hard because it, like Andrew talks about click culture. The reason that everybody does everything online is because online is easy, right? And it's quick, and it's it's a lot of things. But a magazine is slow. A magazine takes time, and but it's crushing it. We've got sponsorships with some of the best people, best sponsors out there. Panini is a sponsor. PWCC is a sponsor. CSG, Leland's. Some of the cream of the crop people that you want to have sponsor the magazine, sponsor it. And I think the reason that they sponsor it is because it's collector content, for collectors. And so if you're interested in getting a copy, get a hard copy. Everybody who gets a hard copy ends up subscribing. I shouldn't say everybody, but a high percent do. And those are our website will go live in the next week. That will be bcfmag.com. But until then, you can still order on our paypal.me site, which is paypal.me/basketballcard. And just grab a couple issues, see if you love it. And most people like getting a monthly mail day, right? Who doesn't like a mail day? So something to look forward to every month.
Well, and this is by no means a plug. And I do want to ask you, right? Because as I was doing this collector series, I was like, what makes a collector, right? That's such a vague quality. Like, we're all kind of collectors. So I want to ask you that. But this is by no means a plug for the magazine. It's just interesting to me, like, how we consume information today, right? Like, when we're on the internet, I guarantee you guys do this because I do this. I jump from 6 tabs to 6 different tabs every minute, right? Like, I'm watching a YouTube video that's educating me, but I'm on Instagram here. And when you get a hard copy, you can kind of leave your phone in the other room. That's and right. Actually learn, right? Like, at the end of the day, the people that are going to win in today's culture are not the ones that are going to consume the most, or the ones that are going to learn the most, right? Because it's not information as power. It's how you apply that information as power. So I do want to urge people to realize how they're thinking about consuming and learning the hobby. And you have interviews and research from some of the smartest people in the game. So it's one of those things. Pricing always interests me. And I'm sorry I'm ranting here, but like it's $10 a magazine. $10.
So, yeah, if you order a year's worth, it comes out to about $10 each. It's $125 for a year. And we
it's one of the. I'm asking because like we ran a family business, we had a cafe, and I did a lot of research into how you price things. And it's funny, like I bet at a price point of $100, it would sell the same amount of copies because there's that much value in it. So you're really getting it for a tenth of the price. It's just something I have to think about. Adam, let's get into the show. I'm curious, like you do this collector's magazine. What makes a collector? Like, how do you even define what a collector is or a true hobbyist?
Well, I think I think it's a great question. I think that if you think about how most people think about it right now in the hobby, it's like there are these people who are in it for the business perspective, and there are these people who are in it because they love cards. But I actually don't love that definition because, like, I'm definitely an investor in a lot of ways, right? Like a lot of why I've been able to do the things I've been able to do is because I've bought cards and sold cards. So, does that mean that I don't love cards? No, I do love cards and I love collecting cards. And so I'm actually both a collector and an investor. But sometimes we use words in a lazy way where we just sort of hope that people are understanding what we're saying. So when I said collector earlier, the reason that I said that was that there's content that is specifically about money and making money and the business side of it. That's not what, what I was referring to is that's not what Basketball Card Fanatic is about. Basketball Card Fanatic is about the other things, the more qualitative, interesting things about collecting and cards specifically. And as Cage said, like in a long format. So, I think that describes a little bit about how I was referring to it. But I think if the three of us in this chat right now are honest, we're all both collectors and investors, right?
100%.
I'm curious what Cage says, but like we get this has been a running theme. Like people say buy what you love, but then the whole counter argument to that is if you bought what you love and it went down in price, it's going to be hard to love it. And if it goes up in price and you sell it, you could reinvest more into the community. So Cage, I'll pass it to you, but like what do you think? What makes a collector?
I mean, there could be 50 definitions of it, but I mean, at base, a collector is somebody who is buying stuff they enjoy so that they can have it, whether it's a card collection, whether it's a glass menagerie, whether it's sneakers. You never read that book?
You don't read books. Did they make it into a movie?
That's just what I tell you, man.
If it's a good enough book,
you get to be the chess-playing professional athlete who used to work on Wall Street at a hot dog stand doing some crypto on the side with Gary Vee in the background. I'm just a lovable fat idiot. So I'm not allowed to know what books there are out there. I mean, I'm dyslexic. I don't even know how to read. I never learned to read. I learned it from watching you, Dad. So, I mean, listen, these are our roles. But no, I mean, collector, it's somebody who gets enjoyment out of amassing. You can't define, but a collection, right? I mean, that's really what it is. There are different levels of collecting. There are different types of collecting. People like to collect players. People like to collect sets. There are set builders. People just collect certain sports. Spinatron was great because he's a Kobe collector who branched out to like sets that Kobe was in, which made him become like a collector of anybody else who was drafted that year, basically, by default, and so it really is great because it is one of those words that's so hard to define. That means that there's not going to be a shortage of quote collectors out there because there's such a vast, way to define it.
Can we groom the young collector? So like, let's talk to the 20-year-old, 30-year-old, that range that came into the hobby in 2021, right? So in 2020, they were promised all these amazing things. They heard such good things, came in and, their experience has been PSA shut down, BGS shut down. First they raised prices, then they shut down. It's tough to make money grading. You have Fanatics taking over Panini and Topps licenses. Adam, like if you were asked like, State of the Union or advice, what would you say to people who just entered the hobby this year? Like how should they look to navigate? How should they look to think long-term?
Yeah, I would tell everybody, both young and new, that like this thing changes fast and you change with it, right? So like as I listen to different shows and I listen to all like tons of different types of content, right? Sometimes I'll listen to somebody and I'll think, I like their perspective. It sounds like who I was 10 years ago, And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we're all in different stages, and we might not even progress in some linear way, and we may not all be progressing to the same thing. In fact, I know we don't, right? The way that I have moved is 10 years ago, I was very much into flipping and trying to figure out how to buy something to then sell it, to then turn it into something else, right? And that was awesome. I loved it. I don't do that so much anymore. Now I'm like about trying to make my collection the best thing that it can become. That was not the primary focus 10 years ago. And whatever state you're in, you don't need to feel bad about that. I think you just need to be honest about it. So that's what I would tell people is like own who you are and what you are trying to accomplish in the hobby, and don't feel bad about it. Do it unapologetically.
Are you worried at all with this Fanatics thing? Are you at all concerned about what's like the kind of the change? So there's two things that I've noticed. So with the whole Fanatics game, there's uncertainty. But at the same time, I said this to Cage just today. There's a lot of cards coming back from PSA right now that are graded, and the market isn't taking a nosedive. So there is a sign of strength. There is a lot of demand. Where do you think, like, is the market going to trend up? Is it going to kind of stay stagnant? What do you think the next 3-6 months hold?
Man, I don't know about the next few months. I don't even know about the next few years, because I don't know how long it's going to take them to really transition. I don't know which of the companies they're going to buy to then, like use their brands. I don't know anything. What I know is how it changed.
And that's why we have you on.
What I know is how it changed last time. And when I say last time, I'm talking about, back in 2009 or 2010, when we moved from Topps and Upper Deck to Panini. I remember it very well. And it's uncertain. The thing that I learned that time was that you want to think about how things might change. And then when you figure out like really how they're going to change, think about how that influences the supply of things. And then think about how like the world might change over the course of the next few years. And when you get a clear idea of that, that's probably a good way to think about how the market will actually change. But for right now, I mean, we don't know. But I would also say, like, I'm sad for Panini, because I think they've done a tremendous job. I don't just say that just because they're one of our sponsors. Like, I think Panini has done a tremendous job. They get a lot of hate.
Can I give a little hot take, Adam? No one's really said this. I'm going to give a little hot take, right? Because it piggybacks on you think Panini did a great job. So in 2009 and 10, when Panini came in, and the couple of years leading up to it, I'm sure there was a lot of talk about how Panini needs some of the brands. Like, Panini should buy some of the Upper Deck, the Exquisite. Panini should buy some of the Topps Chrome. Panini should do what they did, right? And everybody at the same time right now assumes Fanatics going to have to go and buy some of the IP. They're just going to have to go and buy Prizm. They're going to have to go and get Topps Chrome from Topps. They're going to just have to do it. Well, if Panini thought like that and acted like that, we would never have gotten Prizm. We would never have gotten National Treasures. We would never have gotten Flawless, Impeccable, and all these other cool things that, now, look, I can do without Clearly Wipe My Ass, Stunress, or whatever the hell other garbage that they're throwing out there. But some of these iconic brands, am I wrong to think maybe Fanatics comes up with their own Fanatic brands, these iconic brands, the same way that Panini did? I mean, we're just still talking about how Panini did a good job.
Nope, you're exactly right. The only caveat that I'd add to that is, remember, they did start with like the Don Russ and the playoff brands, so they had those. But you're exactly right, Cage. Like, they may do what I just sort of assumed that they're not going to do. I believe that the market's so strong now, in a way that it wasn't back then, that I think that they're going to buy something. I could be totally off base, but I've thought that since the beginning. First thing that I said, I jumped on a live right after we heard this, and I said, I think they'll do one of two things. I think they'll buy either Topps and Upper Deck, or they'll buy Panini. I think they need either the first two or the third one there. And because with both Topps,
what if they buy Leaf?
That would be weird. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be great. That'd be great. I would love to see them do that, but I don't see why they would do that, because that's not Leaf doesn't have the brands today that they would need, in my opinion. No disrespect to Leaf.
You want to get on Brian Gray's good side today?
I mean, they have Metal, right? I mean, they have Metal brand, right? They have a Metal, Leaf Metal. They have, I mean, you can't really take away Metal. I mean, and there are other, quote unquote, iconic, sets that they can pay. I mean, who owns Sportflix right now? Like,
Yeah,
I would be all in if Fanatics came out with a Sportflix. Like, come on, bring it back. You know what I mean? Like,
I love it.
Anyway, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think that's what you're pointing out there. And, we've learned, right, Andrew, is fear, uncertainty, and doubt can be very troubling to a market. People don't like that stuff. They like to have, some sort of certainty in what they're doing. But listen, Adam, we love having you on because you've been through it, right? You've seen it happen, and we've come out stronger on the other side.
I'm curious. So, like, we're in a lot of Instagram groups. By the way, I recommend people get into Instagram groups because Instagram is where, like, if the NFT community is on Twitter, the sports car community is on Instagram. I think it's pretty obvious at this point, right? So we're in a lot of Instagram groups and, like, with people who are the movers and shakers. And they are vehemently, like, against NFTs to the point of, like, they will ban you from the group if you talk about them. But Panini has NFTs already. Like, they've had them. They were pretty early. They have Dunk and Blitz too, which have similar components. And Fanatics has specifically come out and said, we're going to do digital collectibles. Old school, new school, but clearly the company that's going to own the licenses and the company that owns the licenses, and I didn't get the Tops and Wax. All of the companies that they love are already into this digital collectible world. Why the animosity? What's the word? It's not animosity. It's definitely not animosity.
No, it's a good
word. Why is it hesitation to embrace? Maybe.
Yeah, I think I get where you're going, and I've seen and heard some of the same thing. I'll never understand why people get so upset at people for liking the things they like, right? I don't like. I'm not a collector of NFTs. I do get it. It's not my thing, but I don't have any animosity or any negative feelings towards people who are into it. I think maybe some people want to always drive the conversation. They want to own the narrative, and they want it to look a certain way, or maybe they just don't want their group of people going off into a thing that's not their thing. I don't know. Those are just some guesses or some reason. I don't know who you're talking about specifically.
Well, one of those reasons I agree with, like, they don't want money leaving the hobby to go to a different industry because we're trying to build this industry. But isn't the reverse true? Like, isn't it possible that if that industry would be interested in coming to this one?
Yeah.
Right? They see a lot of speculation in NFTs, and then they're like, well, I want to deploy some of my assets in traditional collectibles. Look at what I could buy for 3.8 ETH. I could get a Kobe Topps Chrome rookie card.
Yep.
I don't know if the prices match up. Please don't hate on me. You're not a big prospector, right, Adam? You're vets through and through. You don't dabble in the Lucas Tatums, or you do.
I'll tell you why I'm not a prospector. It's because the last time I was on your episode, I told you guys that I had a Trey gold vinyl optic card.
Yep.
And then afterwards, I sold it for like $40,000, and it's probably worth $200,000 now. Okay, so that shows you how smart I am. I'm just not great at it, but I love it. I think it's fun. It's not what I do anymore.
Don't act like you bought it for $40,000. You bought it for
$2,500.
Okay, so. Right, like
worked out okay, but
it worked out pretty good.
Could have worked out better.
It does not matter. By the way, Andrew, you're getting an education in this, right? Because we could have on all of the business leaders in the world, right? We'd have on Ken Golden, was flying high and doing all of this stuff. But the constant with collectors is what you hate about me. It doesn't matter.
I don't hate anything about you.
It doesn't matter we made 20x. We are mad that we didn't make 100x on our investment. Right? It doesn't matter how successful it was. We're always going to be like, yeah, but I could have done this, and this. And I'm not. And what's even funnier about Adam is because of that, it's all or nothing. Just like it is with me. It's like, I'm not doing prospecting anymore. I'm not going to do it because I know the next time I do it, even though it's a win, it's really going to be a loss. So I'm just sticking with the veterans. That's it. I can't wait for the top 75 of the NBA to come out, and that will be it. If any of the people I collect is not in that 75, I'm selling them all. And we got to talk about that too, by the way. So
I would like to. Good.
I want to talk about that, but back to the Trey real quick. Like that card, I really believed that he was going to flame out, that he wasn't going to do anything in the playoffs. And then I didn't know if he was going to make the playoffs. And then he goes to the playoffs, beats the Knicks. They beat the Sixers in the second round. And all of a sudden, this guy's in the conference finals. And I'm like, I sold this card like 2 months ago. It's one of his best cards in existence. And I just blew it. I made a mistake. But I think my reasoning was right. I would rather deal with the certainties, the Kobe's and the Jordans, right? Like that's where I live for the most part.
Do you know that card is 200,000 or like in that ballpark?
No, here's what I know. I know that two other significant one of ones, the Optic Black and the Optic Nebula, both sold around 400, and I'm guessing it's worth half. But it's a good point, Andrew. It could be worth 50. It could be worth. 200 is a massive guess.
Worth 300.
Right. So school me here. This is an opportunity, and this is gonna go. I'm gonna go to Adam first, and then the UKH. So this is really interesting, and I think there's some education here for our listeners, especially kind of the newer guys like me. Trey's silver before last year's season was $2,000, Cage, 1,800.
Yeah, then the run up,
then there was a run up to 3,500.
Yeah.
And this was before the season. If you would have told me that he would have had the season he had, you would think it would be at least the same price by the end of the year, right? But his traditional like kind of liquid base cards, and I think a silver is a base card at this point because there's so much pop. It was actually half the price, but his 1/1 went up 4 or 5x. How does that make sense, right? So, guy has an incredible season. You're a Trey investor. His silver card is half the price it was before the season, before he had that amazing performance. But his 1/1s and his really rare cards are 5x. How am I ever going to win?
You have to be on the right side of the narrative. You have to be on the right side of the hobby narrative, right? So coming into the year and the season before, the powers that be that run the hobby were telling you to buy the base and the silvers, and those were running up because those were the liquid assets. They were easy, they were out there, easily tradable. But everybody bought them, everybody graded them, and even though he was having a success during the season, scores of those were coming back from PSA every week, and the population was continuing to grow, even on the silvers. And at the same time, the narrative in the hobby switched. You know, the people who like to tell you buy what you love, and the people who are telling you, you know, those people that are out there, the narrative became buy low pop numbered stuff. Buy low pop numbered stuff. So at the same time that even though Trey was doing better, the cards that you're talking about, the pop was growing and they were out of vogue. They were no longer the thing that people were chasing. So it was a kind of a nice little perfect storm as to why, even though
supply increased, content was suggesting buy the lower pop.
Yeah.
Adam, what do you make? I mean, you were holding the Trey 101.
I think there's a couple things I'd say here. The first is that there's always two components that we have to consider in the hobby. One is with respect to a given card or a given player, and that is first player performance, and second is the whole of the hobby and how it's moving in regard to specific sets or in regard to the hobby. So those two variables create value or take away value. And even if a guy has the best season ever, there's a chance he loses value, and vice versa, right? There are plenty of players that didn't live up to expectations that increased in value at the same time. That's always going to be a thing because those things are real. But the other thing that I'd say here, so put those two things aside. I've heard a lot of people talk about how rare, really highly collectible specific cards are better to hold on to long term. And it's because there's actually somebody who wants to own that thing. As a collector of rare cards, there is no appeal to me of something that is readily available. I don't care about it in any way. It just doesn't do anything for me. But as a collector, somebody who wants to own the rarest, the best, the whatever, like I want to go get that thing. And I don't think about like a comp. I don't think about how it or not a comp. What I mean to say there is I don't think about like a multiple of how it works in connection with like a base card. I don't care about the base card. It doesn't mean no good. But that 1/1 Trey gold optic that I owned, that card was cool because that was the only one. And I knew the moment I sold it, I'll never, ever get it back, right? Even if it goes down, I'm never going to go spend the sort of money that I would need to get that card back.
Can you define rare, right? Because rare is such I think sports cards are maybe the best education for business ever because they teach you so many of these like hidden lessons, I guess, so to speak, patterns, but like define rare, right? Like, is a Prizm red out of 199 rare? Well, okay. Or is a Prizm orange out of 39 rare? Well, there's also the blue, and then there's the red, and then there's the silver. It's like, well, what is even rare?
Yeah, this is the second time in this podcast where you've asked a question about how to define something, and where I think it's really smart to ask that question because In both cases, I use a term more generically, but then let's break it down, right? Like we did on the last one. In this case, what I'm referring to is an item that somebody's going to really want to own, and views is like one of the very best things. So it's not enough that there's a low supply. It's that there's a low supply and that it will be highly desired. That's impossible to define in the future right now, because I mean, you can kind of try to do it, but like, here's a great example. I've said this to many people. I love this example. The 2008 Kobe Bryant card with LeBron guarding him. You guys know the card. It's like become super well known, right? Over the course, I had the gold refractor of that, and so that's like obviously one of my best.
Gorgeous card.
It's a great card. That card in 2009, 2010, 2011, all those years, nobody knew that like LeBron would go to the Lakers, right? Nobody knew that Kobe was going to pass away and that this card was going to like represent a specific era. But I think it does now. Like, I think that image now, and now I totally sound like a pumper, so forgive me, but I do think this is a good example. That image represents something really important to the history of card collecting, to the history of the NBA, and to this era specifically. So, like, if you looked at that in 2012, 2013, 2014, you wouldn't have thought of it as something significant. But now you look at it, and it's still the same it's still the same population, but what makes it desired in that population is what's happened since then, and that can happen for a myriad of reasons, one of which is the things that I just talked about.
It's funny looking back, like, how did people not know, right? Like, it's so funny, like, to have that hindsight bias, like LeBron, and obviously Kobe passed the torch to LeBron, and these are such iconic players.
But you didn't know that he'd go to the Lakers. You had no idea about that.
Do you think that matters with that card? Or is it just two greats guarding each other?
I think it really matters. I could be wrong, but like, if I'm a Laker fan and I care about like the history of the franchise, like, that's both those guys on the same card, one guarding him. You're right. He's in a Cavs uniform, so maybe it doesn't, but I think it does.
It definitely, it's the provenance, right? Because there was the Optic 2016 one where LeBron was doing the layup, and I think Kobe's in the background that also had some kind of provenance there. Are you a believer in this Lakers team?
No.
It's gonna be tough, right? 4 vets. They haven't won one preseason game, by the way, and the last time they've done that was when Nash and Dwight Howard were on the team.
Dude, it's well. Like, I mean, obviously Vegas is a whole lot smarter than we are, right? And they have them as like 90% high likelihood to win the West or whatever.
Is that true?
I think something like that. But listen to this real quick. Okay, listen to this. Each of the last 3 years, I've just gone out there and said, I don't think the Lakers are going to win the championship. I was right too. And in 2 of the years, I said they weren't going to make the playoffs, right? I was right one of those 2 times. And then the third time, they didn't make it out of the first round. But everybody seems to remind me of the year that I was wrong, where they won the championship. I'm betting against them not being healthy. And guess what? Like, LeBron's 6th all time in minutes. And by the end of like the first month of the season, he'll be 4th all time in minutes. And Anthony Davis has been like a guy who gets hurt every single year. So maybe
you say you're betting against them. How are you betting against them?
Well, just verbally. I mean,
no, you're not going to Vegas and betting the field minus the Lakers, or I mean, like you're selling your Laker cards. Like, how are you betting against them?
If they stay healthy, I won't be shocked. But like, would I bet on that? Bet on those 2 guys staying healthy? I'm not betting on it. If they do, then they'll probably win the West.
Or buying Anthony Davis cards, for example, would be a sign of showing that you're betting on that team. But no,
I don't like Anthony Davis cards because his best cards, he's in a different uniform, and that franchise doesn't like him anymore. So for me, I actually don't love Anthony Davis cards. But I know I hate saying that because, in fact, I almost wish I could take that back now that I said that, because I want people to, as you guys talked about, like, buy what you like. But for me, like, I'm not interested in Anthony Davis cards.
Can you have the nuance? Like, I traded my Luka Silver for like a whole bunch of nonsense, and Anthony Davis auto 2012 Prizm and the Bradley Beal auto 2012 Prizm, but I don't like the trade. I think it was a terrible trade looking back. I'm like, I could admit that and be a holder of the card. It doesn't, like, I don't know. Like, I think it's okay to admit, like, Yeah, his cards are probably not a great invest. He's also the second best player on the team, and he's made of glass.
Let me say this real quick.
Great
I actually
eyebrow.
do like the Anthony Davis Prizm autograph because it's that full autograph. I don't own one, but like I think that's a cool card. And if I believed in Anthony Davis enough to get over his jersey, by the way, I've got a couple of really nice Anthony Davis cards, but like he's not somebody I would be speculating on right now because I don't want to go actively look for those cards where he's in the wrong uniform. And like I said, that fan base doesn't like him anymore. So it just feels weird to me, you know?
What do you make of your Jazz? Give us so Jazz are this interesting team. They're always good, but they struggle to get over the hump. I think Dwayne Wade is now a minority owner of the Jazz. So that's pretty cool.
Right. Boy,
what prospects do you have for your team, right? Like you guys are good.
So
Very good, actually.
Half the people just turn the podcast off when you ask me about Jazz. But seriously, like you guys realize we had the 16th best differential of all time last year. Like we dominated the whole regular season. We just destroyed it. And then we get to the playoffs and Mike Conley's hurt and Donovan Mitchell's hurt and Rudy Gobert, apparently like people expect him to be able to guard both the perimeter and interior simultaneously. So no, we couldn't beat a beaten up Clippers team that didn't have Kawhi Leonard, but had 5 3-point shooters. And it was because like our perimeter guys couldn't guard anybody. Like Cage and Andrew and Adam would be like running past these guys to get into the lane. They couldn't move. And so like, I don't know. I'm a totally biased fan. It's way too close to it. And last year was way too emotional and I hated it. And so I have hopes, but I have like these like negative feelings too that I'm still trying to get over.
A little athleticism might help too, right? Like you guys like Terrence Mann beat you guys on the perimeter. Like the Clippers were just quick, right? They weren't necessarily a better team. But a lot of like Donovan Mitchell is good and he's athletic, but he's probably like the most athletic guy on the squad.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So
the Jazz don't have somebody who I would trust to step up and make the basket. It's like Mitchell looks at Gobert and expects Gobert to make the play.
Spider's pretty
dude.
I mean, he's a great regular season player is basically what the book on him is right now.
But this is it. Like you have to. We always say this about guys until they do it. Like at one point, Steph was a guy where it's like, I don't know if we can trust the Warriors. And remember Charles Barkley?
Michael Jordan was. I'm telling you, I was alive for it. I remember playing basketball on my block. And people are like, I'm Jordan. And I'm like, ooh, I'm dunking like Michael Jordan. And be like, don't be Jordan. He can't win the big game. Like, he can't take his team. He'll never win. Like, people used to say that.
Yep.
Yeah, people used to say that, you know? Yep. And, I mean, obviously, the narrative changes when you win, you know?
So the way that just to put a bow on the Jazz, like, they were, again, the 16th best differential team of all time last year. Go back, they, like, won an average game in the regular season by 10 points. They just ran through the regular season. Do I believe that can translate to the playoffs? I'd like to see us healthy. Like, I'd like to see us healthy to know, you know, but we were missing effectively 2 of our 3 all-stars in the second round. Like, they weren't playing like themselves. So, you know,
it's fair to say, though, in the West, everybody was. Kawhi wasn't playing. You know, the Lakers were kind of banged up also. And, you know, most of the teams in the West, you know, had some sort of an injury. It was one of those, you know, the Suns had, they were like, it was like it was the only time they were going to get through because they didn't have to play anybody healthy, you know?
Who are you guys picking to come out of the West this year?
Warriors.
Woo-hoo!
I don't think think about how crazy that is. That right there shows the disrespect that Curry gets. That we think that it's ridiculous that the greatest shooter of all time might win the Western Conference, not win the finals, win the Western Conference.
But Andrew, he didn't make it out of the play-in game last year, man. Like that's why people question that.
You've seen his team, right?
Against the Lakers, who everybody is saying is going to win the West, which is funny.
That was an amazing game. That was an amazing game.
Yeah, and Memphis. No, I would love to see that. I mean, except for I want the Jazz to win. Like I would love to see Steph go on a run like that. He's got a real shot. You're right. He's not who I'd bet on, but absolutely has a chance.
Well, their team last year dealt with a lot of stuff. Every team deals with a lot of stuff, but the team that was playing, they were 3 points away from beating the Lakers in the first playing game, and then they lost to the Memphis Grizzlies. But it was with like a shell of their team, right?
That's right.
Wiseman, I don't think was playing. Draymond was hurt all year, and he came back to compete. Wiggins is an interesting guy. Wiggins can't be a 2 option or a 3, but he could be a 4. But just back to the Jazz real quick. They remind me of the Bucks in 2019, right? When they were great in the regular season, but they had to learn how to win. A big change that happened was Giannis kind of took that next step, not maybe statistically, but like I don't know what the it factor. That's what I want to see from Mitchell. And I gotta be honest, the jury's a little bit out. I don't know if he's got it, and I don't know if he has enough athletic talent, height, things to like really like Giannis is an athletic specimen. Like frankly,
I would argue that what happened to Milwaukee Bucks is they got a point guard who's one of the best defenders in the world, and
True.
And I would also argue that they were really lucky to beat the Nets. Like so much of this is luck. So much of this is luck, and that's the thing that's so hard.
Cage's favorite word.
That's what's so hard about last year for the Jazz is like they had this perfect road, and they still like they had 2 minor injuries, and it still hurts, man. It's because they had it and they lost it.
Can we get a little preachy? It's like if all of this in life is luck, right? And I know it's not. But like, how do you win? You know, is it just, hard work and cross your fingers and hope? I mean, you have some big news coming out of your company. Congrats. I'm not going to make it public, but congrats on all the success with what you do. You meet a ton of really successful people. You invested a ton of entrepreneurs. Luck's a big factor. Cage and I talk about that. Like we had a few people on from the New England area, which by the way, I love the New England crew.
Why hasn't he invested in us yet? What's going on here?
We don't need money, bro.
Invest in me. Okay, fine. We don't need it. How about throw a little something my way, man? No.
But Cage was like, of course these guys from New England stick together. They lived through the Tom Brady era, and they made a ton of money because obviously they were buying Tom Brady cards. Because so, like, how much of it is luck, and how much of it is hard work?
Man, I would tell you this. What I've seen in my time in private equity, and I'm not an investor, right? I'm an accountant. But what I've seen, and it's just plain as day, is that you make the very best decisions that you can. You do all the due diligence in the world. You make sure you feel as good as you possibly can about it, and then in the end, it really does come down to factors that they're not up to you. Just like in this world of sports cards, right? If you're going to buy the younger guys, some guys are going to be like Giannis and they're going to stay healthy. And some guys are going to have all the talent in the world and be destined for greatness. And then some freak thing is going to happen. You can only control what you can control, and hopefully you get it right. But some people in the end will just view the end and they'll say, oh yeah, that guy must've been really smart. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people who make a lot of money or a lot of great decisions that were just them getting so lucky. And
hell yeah. People need to own that shit. People get lucky. Right place, right time. Yes, you can help yourself with your luck, but a lot of this is luck. And you know what? It's okay to be lucky, but then it's also okay to acknowledge it. It's okay, right? I have the best card I have in my collection happens to be because the month before I made the biggest sale that I had ever made in my collection. It happened to have enough liquidity for it that I was able to spend 5 times more on that card than I had ever spent on any other card in my history of collecting, right? It was not so far out of my wheelhouse. But
what was the card?
At the time, it was a Jordan PSA 10 rookie, the 86, 87 Fleer Jordan. And it just so happened that I had sold a ton of cards that I had purchased in the year leading up to that to one person. Gave him a good deal. I was able to buy 2 cards with all of it. I bought a Mantle 5, a PSA 5 Mickey Mantle, 52 tops, and I happened to have the money in there. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with this? And the same person I sold the cards to messaged me and was like, you gave me a really good deal. You're a straight shooter. I happen to know someone who's looking to sell 2 Jordans. I want one for myself. I'll take them both, but if you want one, in our many conversations, you always said that was your dream card. I know you happen to have the money because I just gave it to you. I just paid you for the stuff. Do you want a Jordan? And I was like, hell yeah, I want a Jordan. So thank you, Rob G, because he was the other side of that equation.
What about meeting me serendipitously through a
Well, yeah, that's lucky too, man. It's all luck. A lot of that it really is. There's a lot of luck. But the thing is, right? So here's the end of that equation. And you're right, man, Adam. I look at it at the end like I must be smart. And you know what? There are smart people out there. But I will tell anybody listening, and guys, repeat this, clip it up however you want. I am not a genius. Not at all, right? And I'm not going to pretend I am. But there are a lot of people out there who pretend they're geniuses because of the end of where they are now. You know, they pretend that they are the smartest person on earth because 1, 2, or 3 deals they made or cards they bought worked out. But you're right, Adam, and I'm glad to hear you say it, right? You know, you can do all the due diligence in the world and settle on that Blake Griffin is going to be an athletic freak that's going to set the world on fire and be somebody you can't miss on, and then you miss, right? You can invest all your money on Ben Simmons, and then he turns into Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there are these can't miss players that come out and then miss, and then there are ones that don't miss. And you know, if you happen to be putting your money in 2018. Right before everybody else jumped in, and you happen to like Luka because you like the way his mom signed autographs, so it does whatever his mom does. You got lucky. You know what I mean? You got lucky. So just admit that. You got lucky. Like, you know, when I got in and I was grading those cards at PSA before everybody else was grading them, that's luck. Yeah, sure. Is there something else there that tells you get in now or get into this one? Sure. There's a little bit of, like, you know, due diligence, research, education in there. But you could do all that.
I don't like it. I think we're all alphas in this. Or not, I don't think we're all alphas. Let me rephrase that. I think there's a lot of alpha in the hobby. You know, we're all competitors. We have a little gambling. We want to feel like we're in control of our destiny, man.
Well, you'd be lying to yourself.
So I like where you're both coming from. I want to say something about what Cage said that I think is fun. He said, you know, a lot of people pretend that they know all this. A lot of people, like, they really think they're smart, and they think it was all them. Like, I think what the happy balance in the middle of all of this is to realize you can say, I did great due diligence. What I did here was smart, but I also got lucky. And I think that's kind of where I like to live in the end. Like, I have this, you know, like you guys, I've got like I'm super proud of my collection, right? I look at my collection, I'm like, I love this thing. I think I've built something really great here. But, like, just because I built it and just because it's great and just because I made some great decisions along the way doesn't mean that, like, for example, Anthony Davis, who made me a ton of money back in 2014, could have gotten hurt right in the middle of that, and he didn't, you know?
Yeah. What was a ton of money? What was like an Anthony Davis rookie card in 2014?
So I had probably one of the best 3 or 4 Anthony Davis collections in the world. I had every big card. I had his National Treasures, one of the best patches out there. I had the 23 of 99 Immaculate, the 1 of 23 Immaculate Acetate, the Flawless Rookie 1 of 20. I had 20-something autographs. I had 50 Prizm rookies. I had everything that you could ever want. And, you know, I put a grand total of like $20,000 into the whole collection. And so, you know, and then when I sold it for, I think in the end I made like 32 grand on it. So I sold it for like $52,000. That was huge.
That's big money. Right.
And now, you know, one of those cards is probably worth half that. So
now you're mad at yourself for selling your tray.
No, because he turned it into something else, right? He turned that 52 that he had now became all Kobe's or whatever the heck he was buying at the time, you know?
That's right. Without Anthony Davis, none of the great stuff that's come since then would have come. So I'm actually happy that I sold it when I sold it, even though a lot of it's probably worth more than it was when I sold it.
Adam, can I invite you into the cage match, please?
Ooh.
And it's going to be one topic.
Sure.
Do you want to go first or second? So heads or tails?
I'll go second.
Coin flip.
You'll go second. Okay. Cage, you're first.
Mm-hmm. Cage
solely invests in rookie cards. You invest in patch autos. Okay. And I want you guys, is that right? You're basically your entire collection is patch autos, game used, most of it.
I would say maybe it's a good percentage, but I invest in I definitely don't just invest in rookie cards. I'm definitely different than that. That's true.
Cool. And Cage is a rookie or an insert. And I want you guys to convince each other why. Not convince, but opening statement, closing statement.
You got the wrong guy here. So I will tell you this, right? I will buy rookie cards of guys that don't have rarity outside their rookie or in their rookie year. So I am not a huge modern collector, but if somebody came out of college now that I fell in love with, right? If somebody was like, you know, the number 8 pick in the draft, whoever, Book Knight, you know, for the Hornets, right? You know,
Shug Knight.
No, his name is Book Knight. Take a look. I would collect Suge Knight's cards. If he has a Chrome card, I would get a Suge Knight card, definitely. But then you can't sell it because they'll come after you. But
you think 50% of our audience knows who that is?
Suge Knight? I'm sure more than 50% knows Suge Knight.
Right,
Come on,
most of them.
huge.
Keep going,
sorry. So what I'm talking about here is like, what's the patch auto for Joe Montana? Right? What is the one? Now, I grew up in the 80s. I was a Raider fan. I was not a Montana fan, but I recognized greatness. And that dude was. And
Adam is, you're 38, right? I just think I did the math.
He did the math.
Got it.
Nice. He can do math. I love it.
Circle gets a square.
Circle gets a square. Jim J. Bullock right in the middle. But here, if there was a Joe Montana, while he was playing Exquisite or something like that, I might invest in that because I have, palettes change, man. And my couple years in the hobby now, the last couple of years, if I were investing now in modern, I would be looking at the flawless stuff. I'd be looking at the RPAs because those are where it's at, especially if I was going to be looking for a young guy, a rookie guy, something like that. But I collect the guys that I have a nostalgic and emotional connection to from when I was younger, right? It's Michael Jordan was the GOAT. Tom Brady was the GOAT. Mickey Mantle was just who everybody told me was the GOAT. I didn't watch Mickey Mantle play. I'm not that old, but Mickey Mantle was like the art card to go for, right? For
Satchel Paige, Kareem.
Yeah, Kareem, that kind of stuff. So those guys don't, they may have exquisite cards. They may have nice RPAs, but they're not the ones that people are chasing. You know what I mean? Because they're retired. A 2012 gold Prizm of Clay is going to outsell a 2012 Prizm gold of, George Mikan, even though Mikan is clearly a better player, but he was not playing in 2012.
I'm out. No way. Stop it. Stop it.
So, my collection is only rookie cards because the genre, the years that I collect are very different than what Adam's collecting. I would never have bought an Anthony Davis card, at the time. So
what's the moderator? The moderator at those CNN.
It's like a ding. So I guess basically what I'm saying is, if you wanted to buy a Jordan, although even Jordan now, he was playing when there were some pretty iconic cards. If you wanted to buy, Montana, Jerry Rice, that kind of stuff, the rookie card, the sole rookie, is the way that I would go. Unless somebody shows me some other way of investing in Jerry Rice that's close to that rookie card with scarcity and the whole 9 yards, that for me is that's traditional collecting. It's going to stand the test of time.
I love that. And the thing that I like most about it is that your last line there, it's traditional collecting. It's going to stand the test of time. I think it's true. And the best thing is if you like the cards that you're buying and you think they're if you can, this is something I've said before in other places. I think it's a great way to think, and it's what you just described. You want to both collect with your head and your heart. You want to think this is a really smart idea, and you want to love the thing. And that's exactly how I am. I want to collect with both my head and my heart. And what's fun about it is we end up in a different place where most of the cards that I want aren't, cards that are I like rare cards, but not that aren't made rare by their grade, right? That are made rare by actually not being, there's not very many of them in existence, and there's a lot of people who want them. So you mentioned the 2012 gold Prizm stuff. I'm going to love 2012 gold Prizm. Two of my best 5 or 6 cards are 2012 gold Prizm cards because they're rare and I think they represent the player really well. So I have a Steph gold from 2012 and I have a Kobe gold from 2012. And, for both of those guys, I would make the argument that's the best card that they have in the Panini era. That's like a normal card, right? Just say it's the best one. You could say, well, there's some one-on-ones that compete with it. That's probably true. But number to 10 or greater, that's it. That's the one. And that's why I collect it, because even though it's not their rookie, I see the value in the rookies, but I can find any of the Kobe rookies way easier than I'll ever find another 2012 gold.
It's true. It's very true. I'm too late on Prizm gold. Everybody listening to this most likely is.
And exactly.
What do you guys think about the flashback? So I saw some people are now going after 2020 flashback Prizm.
I have a take on this. So if and I haven't done this yet, but I've thought this. If somebody doesn't exist in 2012 like a Jason Tatum or a Donovan Mitchell, and you want that, you like that style, you like the how like iconic or whatever words you want to use the 2012 gold is. I think that's really cool. And I think they're all cool. People should do what they want. I should lead with that. But I don't see the appeal in some of the guys that already have the card from 2012. I don't think the appeal is as strong. I still see the appeal because it's still a gold Prizm. It's still a really cool card. But especially those guys that don't have a 2012, that's pretty cool.
What if you see Cage? Any take on what I'm talking about, right?
Of course.
The 2012, 2020.
Even guys who have a
throwbacks.
2012, like I mean, the LeBron, it's got to be a Laker jersey. That's a pretty cool, variant on it. If you really think that it matters, he's on the Lakers.
It's a bigger franchise than the Heat. Like, would it be out of the ordinary, or like if a 2012 Prizm, 2020 LeBron outsold a 2012?
Well, a 2012 gold Prizm LeBron already sold for like $600 and something thousand.
What?
So, yeah, at Golden back 6 months ago or something. Like that's the biggest gold Prizm card outside of probably the Luka, and the Giannis is close, but the LeBron 2012 is the first gold. It's the first Prizm. It's the first, and to me, I mean, like I'm speaking as somebody who owns a silver LeBron from 2012, so for whatever that's worth. To me, that's just a huge card. So I would think it would be very surprising if something more modern, that's more like a recreation, could sell for more. That would be shocking to me personally.
All right, another cage match question. I'm just coming up with these on the fly now. PSA 9, Bird, Irving,
Magic.
Johnson, Magic, or an auto of those three guys. On-card auto.
So I have.
My PSA.
Am I going first this time?
Yes,
Sure.
So I would go with PSA 9 by far. And I can say that as somebody who owns a PSA 6 that is autographed of that card. And it's a great
I would
card.
take a 6 autograph of that. I love that.
It's a
not
beautiful
putting a 9.
It's a beautiful card, but it's not a 9. And a 9 in that card is cool. It's really, really cool.
I sold my 9.
Yeah, and I had one too, and I sold it too. But it's like you think about that, and you know how I just said there's like cards that are made rare by their condition, and there's cards that are made rare by how many there are. That's a card that's clearly made rare by its condition, but it's such an important card. I would say that's the second most iconic card ever made. And so I thought through this very hard. Like that's the number 2 next to the Jordan. And so, finding one that doesn't have the print spots, that has the really nice centering, that has, that doesn't have some of the issues that a 9 would obviously not have, be really cool. What do you think, Cage?
Well,
I agree with every word you just said. You escaped this round unscathed in the cage match. Dude, listen, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you jumping on. Tell everybody once again where they can find your magazine, where they can subscribe and stuff like that, because I know the website's not out yet.
So as you do that, I want to pull it up, guys. So this is the first edition. I'm not a reader. I've always told you guys I'm an audio listener, but I want to show you guys some of the content that you could get. As Adam tells you where you can find it, but like here's an example of one of the magazines, and the hard copy is.
Let me just jump in real quick, Andrew. Like this thing that you're looking at right now, we still are proud of it, but this is a monstrosity compared to what it is now. Like the magazine is so much better now, and so like we did last time, I think if anybody's made it to the end of this issue, let's do this. Let's do something fun.
Let's do it.
While we still have the PayPal.me site out there, for anybody who comes there, you can write in the notes section. You can just say Luka's, right, to represent these guys. I will give them all of the money that we make on the issue, like all the profit that we make. So obviously it costs money to print it, but let's do this. Let's do a month for $11. So you get next issue that we're doing is a 90s themed issue. And if you go to if you go to paypal.me/basketballcard and pay $11 and include the Luka's name in the title, I will give Cage and Andrew all the money that we make on that for next month.
The money's going into our Tiger Art Fund.
That's it.
Yep.
Woohoo! We're going rock and roll.
No, but I disagree with you though. I disagree. It's not a monstrosity because you're talking about it from an owner, a CEO. You're running the business, so your standards are always high. But I'm talking about value within. I mean, that issue right there, that compared the market cap of LeBron, Kobe, and Jordan cards, and not just by best sales and all, but how many releases, how many parallels there were, how many different types of cards. So the value inside of that magazine is through the roof. It's $11. It's literally nothing. And I told you guys, go sign up, check it out. And the money that I love that we'll put it in the Tiger Art Fund. How about that, Cage?
Adam, we love having you on, man. We really do. It's great stuff. Obviously a true collector, obviously someone who's seen it in its ups and its downs. Very respectful to every type of collector, and however they want to collect, but also honest about it. We'll have you on anytime you're willing to come on. Thank you very, very much.
You guys do this more than anybody. You spend an incredible amount of time. You work so hard at it. You engage with your fans, right? People who follow you. You care about the community. And you do a lot of really great things. And like we led with, Andrew, the whole idea of reasonable people can disagree. We might can collect totally different things, but I'm huge fans of you guys and all the things that you're working on and all the things that you're doing. Keep doing everything that you're doing. And you've seen a lot of success, but you're going to see a lot more. I really believe that.
Appreciate that, man.
Thanks, guys.